Well, hey Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. In this episode, I'm going to be doing a review of the metal build Zeta Gundam. Very excited to get my hands on this. I do have some other metal builds, so I have an idea of what to expect. But I'm also a fan of the Zeta, and I have some others we'll compare it to. But yeah, let's dive in. All right, and here is the metal build Zeta Gundam. Looks fantastic. I just love the proportions of this. I love how beefy it feels, and it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart like, some other Zetas out there. But real quick, let me show this alongside the others before we get into the review. Here is the Master Grade Verka, which, they look very similar. There's some differences, though. Here is the original Robot Spirits release. So this is like the 1/44th scale. This is awesome. I really do like this a lot. But it is kind of its own interpretation, which is very interesting. And then what had been my favorite actually this whole time is the version Katoki Robot Spirits version. And I don't know if it's necessarily metal. It might be metal. I forget. Because it has the metal in the arms. I forget if it is the full-on metal Robot Spirits or just one of those where it's a version Katoki that has some metal. Anyway, this had been my favorite for the longest time. I just love the detail and the way this looks. But will the new metal build we have be the ultimate version? I kind of think so. And really, I haven't messed with it too much yet. We're going to do it live here. And that way, as I go through it, if things crummy or not as good as they should, we'll find out. All right, and let's get a quick, close-up look at this. I mean, look at the details, the real markings, the decals, whatever, all the little detail going throughout. Seeing where there's, metal in the joints, but also seeing where there's like just little metal parts throughout, which is pretty interesting, unless that's just, painted plastic. Although we can see here, that plastic that's painted. I mean, there's just so much cool detail going on with this, and it just feels, hefty and beefy to hold. But let's take this stuff off and let's start going through the articulation while keeping an eye on the certain details. Okay, let's get a look at the head here. Looks fantastic. Love the way it looks. But let's see what the articulation is like. It's kind of common with Gundams, the way they're designed, where there's sometimes at the collarbone or the neck, you can see the back of the head here, where sometimes the neck rotation or head rotation is blocked. It's not too big of a deal. There is a little bit of a movement here. I don't know if this has to do with transformation, which we'll get into. But I can turn the head in ways it's limited. So that's kind of disappointing, but I guess not too big of a deal. We'll see when I start doing some action poses. All right, and the arms here. Let's see, we've got a couple things going on. How do the shoulders work? We have an articulated piece here, and even the shoulder itself articulates slightly. There might be some limit how far this arm can go up due to the armor here touching. I guess it's not too bad, and it looks like it could be manipulated depending on where you turn it, but there is a bit of a limit here. Yeah, and it's even here we could see where, it hits on the back armor here. So it looks like there's some limited range. Oh, it looks like a connector point, but we'll see as we get through. But on the arms is a rotation here, which can also be blocked by an armor piece here. Very interesting. So you have to have it straight, but even when you turn it, interesting, that doesn't seem to turn. Okay, so it should. Just on the left arm I can, on this right arm, it's, there we go. Wow, I really had to push in. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that rotation is there, and we go to the elbow, and this is where we could see some of the metal, perhaps? I mean, this seems more plastic than metal. There seems to be some metal in there. I don't know, but we'll see. Well, again, there seems to be, it doesn't go up all the way. I mean, this is pretty good, though. I'm not going to complain, but there is something blocking it from going all the way. Oh, no, there we go. Wow, you really have to push on it, but look at that. That is actually pretty impressive. You would think so, too, if it's doing the transformation, but that's pretty good there. And so, while working on this, we have the full rotation of the arm. The hand works a little different because it has a peg instead of like a ball joint. So, but when you put it on, there is an articulation right here to move it forward. Not too much, but it's enough to maybe help with a weapon, holding a gun or something. I I feel like that's limiting, actually. We're not getting, and that might not make sense for it to do it like that, but it is kind of limited in its range, and we'll see, again, as I do action poses. Okay, what do we got going around here? Because this is where I could potentially mistake what is transforming pieces as articulation and vice versa. Let's see. I'm curious about a waist swivel. Is there any? Is there any? If there is, it's very minor. Let me move this up and see what I can mess with here to get some waist swivel. Because if this is the way it's supposed to, be, there's a little bit of give, not much. I'm sure it's blocked due to transformation. But yeah, we'll see on that. But that seems limited. And then down here we have the skirts, which are part of the transformation. So we will see sort of the mess down here, how that works. Let's open this up. Get a look down there. I love all that extra paint detail. And looking at the articulation here, so it looks like there is a swivel for the thigh, and then a hinge, actually. And then the leg and not the waist is what has the side skirt, which again is probably part of the transformation process as we look in there. Further down with the legs, let's see what we could do here. You could see the movement actually in the knee. But, okay, that is probably for transforming. It seems potentially, I don't want to break anything. There we go. It seems like there's maybe some slight limitations with the knee. Let me try the other one. And it could just be with engineering, because as I'm moving this, so many pieces are moving. And then if I... Okay, there we go. I got that one to go a little more, so it might be a matter between getting the skirts in the right spot, which again, these are coming apart because they probably transform. I do love the detail underneath there. Let's place this back where I guess it's supposed to go. To then be able to get that knee up. So yeah, depending on how you have the back skirt, you can get more range. But even this range is pretty crazy. It's not like you would be doing this with the Zeta. So that's where sometimes when it comes to the articulation and the range, I don't really care too much if it doesn't really affect pulling off something that we've seen, in the shows. Okay, and then down at the feet, oh, cool, we got some more plastic we can remove. We can open that up and kind of see in there. I was kind of messing with the foot articulation earlier, and it doesn't seem to have a good pivot side to side, or not even that, but like if I am going to place it down and I wanted to kind of tilt the foot a little bit, that doesn't actually seem to be an option here, which it is with most robot spirits, even Gunpla. It doesn't even, I can turn it. There's a swivel, but that swivel would not translate to more of a pivot for the ankle. So, and it could be just another case of me not getting it to do anything, or it's just simply not there. And yeah, looking under there, I'm not seeing that. So it's a little disappointing, but considering it comes with a stand, I'll be using that a lot. And then on the back, another thing here is part of its, transformation, the Wave Rider. This is stuck on the back. It's even got a little metal stuff here to keep it on there, which is great. And then, yeah, this obviously will move. And lots. I mean, even look at the detail in there. That's incredible. Okay, I think that's it for, looking at, I guess, the articulation. Oh, that articulates too, obviously, for a reason. Let me see if there's anything else I need to check out here. I would say, when it comes to metal builds in general, their articulation's good, but they're usually not as good as a robot spirit is. And that's fine because, again, there's a lot of metal. There's a lot going on. But yeah, let's look at the accessories. All right, so a couple things here. We've got the Wave Rider backpack, whatever. I'll be putting that on here shortly. We've got this part of the shield, obviously attaches to the arm, part of the transformation. All right, and we've got the beam rifle. I'm really bad at this. I know there's an add-on part. It's Mega Beam Launcher. I forget what these things are called sometimes. It's really bad, except if I'm actually doing a lore video. Then it's on point. But, okay, there we go. I was about to say, does this do some transformation stuff? Yeah, I just got it to collapse. How do I get it back out again? Oh, interesting. Look at this. So this pops up. Actually, yeah, let me show you like this. When you do that, you got the viewfinder. Pops in, pops out. That's pretty neat. A lot of articulation here. There's even an option to put a beam on this end as well. So we'll take a look at that later. Actually, let's just do it right now. I have the 2 beam saber blades it comes with. So we can have one in the front, like it's shooting. Have one in the back like it's shooting, or just a dual, Darth Maul style thing going on. I don't know if I really like the idea of using a single beam effect part as both the laser firing from a beam rifle and the beam saber, but it's cool. Okay, and we've got multiple V-fins here, and it could be replacements, could be static, yes, some that don't move. And we'll look in the manual to kind of get an idea of how those are supposed to work. But just to finish this off, a bunch of different connector pieces, clear ones. I'm sure there's, Wave Rider mode stuff going on. That's a lot, though, but that could be a good thing. Keep it secure on the stand, which, speaking of, here's the stand right here, just a typical metal build stand. Has everything on here about the Zeta, AUG, and a connector piece to put on that's made for the Zeta. It's interesting how none of this stuff is universal. It's different with every mobile suit. We also got alternate arm thingies. I'm not too familiar with this. I wonder if it has to do with the rocket launchers actually on it, on the hand, or grenade launchers. I think it's a grenade. You open that up. There it is. I think I've seen it red before. And yeah, if we take this out, I haven't even taken this out. I don't know what the point necessarily is of this. I guess a non-version, if that's what goes on there, or this could be for something else entirely, or it's part of the Wave Rider. Again, we'll look in the manual to get a good idea. But to finish it off with the accessories, the hands, it comes with a whole bunch of different hands. I like these hands. These are some nicely detailed hands in proportion, like the points of the fingers, the little silver on the hand right there, which is usually just a white bump on everything else. We've got beam saber hand, closed fist, completely closed. I like that they have that as an option. We have this hand that looks like it's made to hold something because it's got an attachment point inside. We've got this open hand and trigger finger. So that's cool. But really, what we're seeing here, along with the stand, is everything this comes with. And that almost seems like it's not a lot. But what else would it come with? Oh, yeah, that Mega Beam Launcher. That's a separate $150 thing. But, let's put it together and then do the transformation. All right. So with the Zeta that I love a lot. Okay, we put this here. For this attachment part, and I've done this already, this part is plastic. This part is metal, and they do snap in from the bottom. I just got to position it right to do it. Okay, one popped in pretty easily. There goes the other, and then the shield, which again, this is feeling really good right now of me just like moving it around in my hand, even though, some pieces are kind of flopping around, but I attribute that to the transformation that we're going to get to shortly. And then there's actually two pieces for the shield, and actually I didn't call that out on the accessories, but there's a connector piece if you want the shield in a different spot, which I appreciate that. You would think they would just have that built in, but hey. So plug this in, and then we have, the shield on here. So, okay, that just fell off. Doesn't look as good, but that's kind of the standard setup that you'd get for your Zeta. I think there's some movement here as well, which is really cool. I'm assuming that has to do with a lot of different things. Well, I'm not assuming. I know. I'm a Zeta fan, so we'll get to that. Okay, so this is the main build here. I think next we'll look at the manual. Before I transform, I just want to take a look at this manual, see if there's anything interesting about what we were just doing that maybe I missed. So let me actually full screen that. Okay, and then there's where you can change out the different V-fin types, how to attach the backpack, how to attach the shield, so good there. And here's how the gun operates, showing where you can remove the magazine, showing that transformation we were kind of showing with the gun, how the things... There's actually multiple levels of this. So let's look at this real quick. Apparently, this pops out, and it just did. Excellent. This part right here is supposed to go in and out. Okay, there we go. A little bit of force. And actually, let's turn this around. And then, yeah, this comes down. This also goes in and out while popping this up and down. I love it. So this is a fully featured gun. If I was to complain about the accessories, I would have to point out this has a lot going on to it, especially the paint, the detail. It looks great. Okay, that's something I was curious about. The beam saber, some of my favorite weaponry in Gundam Universal Century. So yeah, you can open the side skirt here, and the accessory is already there. it's in there. Interesting. I love how they did that. Let's pop in the beam saber blade, take a look at it there, and then pop it in here. And would you look at that? Looks great. Okay, this other part here has to do with the piece we were talking about before. So if we grabbed this and we looked at the arm and kind of mimic what's going on here, I am confused. I don't know if it's the idea is when it's shooting from this, which hopefully I can open it again, that like this pulls back. Is this something used for extra magazines to shoot? This is something I totally forgot. Probably got myself canceled as a Gundam Zeta fan, but that is there. So there's that. Oh, and looking down here, so that grip hand we saw makes sense. This is something we see played out in official images or whatever, is when there's that hand on the rifle with the beam blades coming out both sides. So the hand wraps around that. So for instance, if we were to take this hand, this gun, let's look at where that would be. Oh, okay. And so it's actually on this front part here. So even though both hands have it, you're only having one hand actually attach. So that's interesting, but that's actually a good thing because then this keeps it, sturdy. The other side doesn't have that, but I guess it doesn't really matter since one can work. Okay, and then we talked about that connector piece that goes underneath. So far, this has been a better experience than the Wing Zero Metal Robot Spirits and the Chogokin Mighty Strike Freedom. Both of those, my connector pieces just were not working right. And looking online, that seemed to be common. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into some craziness, guys. We are going to start the transformation process. Here we go. Let's begin. Wow, there was a moment just now trying to get this leg up where this metal articulated piece to get the leg, it was just stuck. And man, it hurt my finger trying to get it. And I didn't want to break anything. That was kind of annoying. But anyway, that looks crazy. And kind of an interesting thing here where you just push the parts of the shoulder here to just kind of tuck against the bicep here. Kind of weird. It says warning may rub off, and it's like, yeah, there's multiple times in this instructions that's like warning may rub off, warning may rub off. This is made in that way where if you use it a lot, it is going to chip the paint, peel the plastic. I don't know how long that took. I'll probably have a time down there once I'm editing this. Future Adam, can you get the time? But I can see there's areas I could probably improve the little nuances of like having something articulated. So I will say this doesn't really improve any of how Wave Riders are built. This is still super cumbersome, annoying. Sometimes I think the instructions were almost like too detailed about things that were just simple. No, just move this here. I don't know, or maybe it's because this is Japanese and I wasn't translating it. But I will say I just love how beefy and cool this looks. In fact, let's get a better shot. Here we go. Here is the Metal Build Wave Rider. You can see this is a little lower. So there's probably something maybe related to the arm that I can like push in a little more just to get it in a little more, but it's still just like any other transforming Zeta where it just doesn't make sense. So they just try to do what they can to make it work, but this thing looks so great. That's why I want to get that Mega Bazooka Launcher, whatever it's called, just so I can get that real look I want out of the Wave Rider. Yeah, I love how chonky this looks. And again, even back here, I think there's ways you could better, or I could better do this. I don't know. So with that, let's look at it. A couple of the accessories or stands with this just to kind of see how that works. So first of all, what I really think is cool is landing gear. So I'm seeing it on here. It's showing landing gear that, you can pull up. It's interesting as I've gone through this, like some pieces are really like stuck in and you feel like you're going to break it. I don't think you are, but then maybe you could if you're not careful. I just haven't broke anything yet, but it just feels like it all the time. And let's look at this landing gear. That's pretty cool that it actually has a landing gear, but let's see. It just shows one shot of it. There's really not much to it other than it leaning back because it's back heavy. I guess if I put the landing gear down a little more, still, no, it's not going to work. The wings. Let's talk about the wings. Am I not doing something right? Do I move it? They're kind of floppy. It moves in and out very easily. I don't know if that's good or bad. That's to stop it from breaking, probably. If it is to fall, but I don't know. The wings seem a little basic. All right, and then we have this piece here. that looks to connect somewhere under here. Okay, that's a very... Oh, so that explains it. When I was talking about it's back heavy, they anticipated that. So even though there's landing gear, there's like an extra piece that you use so that it doesn't fall backwards. I guess that's all right, but it's not... I don't know. That kind of goes against the idea of making this transform. It's so elaborate so that it can transform and to be as real world as possible, but then it needs a fake back landing thing. And I know that's not too big of a deal. I just, with all that's going on, why couldn't they engineer that? So this is pretty cool. You can open up that actually looks really cool. Open up the side of the legs to kind of give it some extra. Yeah, let's get the wings out to stay. And yeah, look at that. That looks so cool. I love this. Okay, here's the gun storage. Let's do that. This does require me to just kind of close it all up. Let's put this down for a second. Close it all up. Take this part that's down here, and another warning may rub off. Okay, and then a part here opens. So that's pretty neat. There's so many little contraptions for opening things, and but you can't get the landing gear right. That's what's weird. Interesting. It's made to like slide along a rail. And then, yeah, warning may rub off. I mean, 100%, of course. Okay, a little scary to get in. I thought I was going to break it. I still am not convinced. Okay. I think I got it. You just pull it back a little bit so that you can then attach it. So again, a lot of like maybe over-engineering, considering, again, I keep talking about the back landing gear. Okay, so then it's like we got to build out the stand for this. So we've got this piece here. Okay, interesting. Doesn't necessarily like clip into something. It just kind of rests on, so you can see the clear plastic here just kind of rests on that. And does that just go in this? I'm totally not comfortable with that. Yeah, even that little give, even if you lock the stand, it has a little bit of give, which I'm not a fan of. And then it has give to the back. You know, this is not, you probably have to do a combination of, and it's like so high off, like, I guess, yeah, okay, let me just then lower it and then pull this back. But then it's like very front heavy. You know, I guess I understand they have these universal stands. Okay, I mean, if I was going to have it on the stand, it would be leaning forward like this. If I back to the next thing, then it's leaning back like this. So then I would just maybe modify the way. So let me then move this forward. Okay, and then move this back. Oh my God. See, I don't trust this stand. I mean, maybe if you set it and you're not messing with it, but like, it's like this with these stands, right? I probably, knowing that they have the landing gear, the clear piece, so that it doesn't fall backwards, I would, if I had it in this form, I would probably just have it like that. But this is mostly going to be in the Zeta form, but you know what? I really like the Wave Rider. And this is another example of like, oh, should I get two? And then I wonder if having that beam cannon underneath might help with its stability at all, but I don't know. Whoa, I don't know. Okay, so that's the metal build Zeta Gundam. I've been wanting it. So happy that I have got it, and it actually is really cool. This is the best version of the Zeta. The transforming, a little annoying, but it's like that with all of them. I feel like there's just not a way to make it where it's practical. And the end result is awesome, but there are some issues. I would say the Zeta itself is a 10 out of 10. The Wave Rider, while it looks like a 10 out of 10, especially how you can open the side vents of the legs, the wings are interestingly a little weak. There's like a little spring in there. And again, I don't want to break it. But you know, looking at the manual, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. So if anyone has any tips out there, or if it's just made to be that way, I just think it's very interesting how there's a lot of cool, high quality stuff going on with this, and then a lot of weird things. But then you got to think of the price, because it's very expensive. Is it worth the price? Is it worth what I paid? I think, oh man, it's hard to say. I think because I so love the Zeta and the metal build line, it maybe is a buy. But when I compare this to like the Hi-Nu, which was around the same price, the Hi-Nu just had so much more to it. Maybe you're paying for the transformation, but I would rather have just a Zeta and then a Wave Rider separately. I really would. I don't care to transform. If I can have a Wave Rider to play with, I will, and then a Zeta to play with, but it's not like I'm sitting down like, you know what, I'm going to spend my day just transforming. And maybe people do that, actually, so I don't want to take that away. But for this, no. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think below. Is this something you would grab? What else should they make in the metal build line? But regardless, shout out to the supporters that made this possible. If supporting the channel is something you're interested in, check the links below in the description. And also check the links for our Discord. We have a lot of fun there, talking Gundam lore, etc. But until next time.